let's have a conversation.
Thank you for having me on. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm sure I'll see you at one of these events again
all
soon.
time. We got Mark with the Mindful Reality podcast, who I've been a guest on, and it was a blast.
Thank you for having me, honestly, and I cannot wait to do it again. We're going to do this again in the future. I just know it.
What's going on, Mindful Reality family? How are you doing? Good evening. The episode just finished, and I'm here, so I'm not late because I'm late. I'm late because they're late. So don't blame me tonight. I was ready and waiting for the episode to air. Good evening, Rory. Hello, America, then. So I am about to introduce my guest today. I already told you that she was going to be on here tonight. I'm excited. This is the first recap of this season, I think. Nah, it's not the first one, but it's one of the few that I've had with a guest. So I have Ebony on here. I'm about to add her. How's it going, Ebony?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. And yourself?
Good, wonderful, crazy episode, right?
Crazy episode. So before we even start with that, I just wanted to mention that Ebony connected with my channel not that long ago. I think that you told me that algorithms brought you here too as well, right?
Yeah, maybe I want to say 3 weeks ago or so. Like it was right after the season started.
Awesome. So right after the season started, she came over here. She was commenting. She was very consistent with the comments. So I had just I liked a lot of the comments, and I told her that I like her unbiased perspective because, I mean, we're all allowed to be fans. So I know that some people are going to be heavily for their people that they like. But I like, when it comes to breakdowns, people who are able to objectively kind of analyze the game, even if they like the different people that are on the show. So that's the reason why I asked her to be here. So thank you for stopping by.
Yes, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate the warm welcome and the invitation.
Let me just get to these comments really quick. Hi, America, then. Hi, Andre. I'm on time today. We are on time today. All right. Like, subscribe, share, comment, and set your notification bell. Thank you, Tammy. Okay, so the rest of the stuff is episode comments. So I thought that Cameron did a fantastic job, and the produced show highlighted that. What do you think?
Yes. So, well, yes and no. So at the top of the show, I was literally thinking like, oh my gosh, this is the best produced episode so far this season. And the editing was really good at the beginning. I love when they captured the fallout from like after Cameron winning head of household, and they show him like up in the HOH room, and he's like processing everything that just happened. And then they're showing like the bye-bye bees downstairs, and they're like, listen, this is the narrative that we're going to paint. This is the story that we're going to tell Cam whenever he asks. And so you see that like back and forth. And I thought that editing was beautiful and amazing. And then I love the anticipation. I am an OG BB watcher, and I love the key turning when they had the wheel. It's like, oh, this person is safe, and so you had that agony of waiting to hoping that your key got
Yes.
pulled, that you were safe.
Yes.
And so this episode with the
Yes.
pies, I thought was amazing, and it just added. This was the perfect week for them to have that type of ceremony, because it added to the agony of the people who have been in control of this game the whole time. So that I thought was beautiful.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
what I did not like, though, is there was
Mhm.
so much fallout from like the HOH competition and everything leading up to the vote and right after. I wish they would have added more of that content into the episode instead of all the
Mhm.
filler packages with like the texting session with Matt and Jag, and then Felicia's snoring, singing, screaming, whatever it was. Like, that's great to have, but I wish they would have saved that for like a later episode that wasn't as busy. But other than that, beautiful episode. I would still give it a 9 out of 10. Yeah, it was just packed. It was juicy.
Oh, I actually agree with everything that you said there, because yes, there was moments where that was like, this is B-roll footage, like
Yes.
Felicia talking in her sleep and like different parts like that. The Cameron stuff, like Cameron's not in the house anymore, so maybe for one of those look back episodes, you throw the snoring in there and you throw in that extra little stuff. So I do agree that those parts were not necessary for the episode. What I liked was the Cameron stuff, we kind of caught pieces of that on the feed, but without his narrative, we didn't know that he was just sitting back and being like, I'm not buying none of this. I'm going to shake this house up, and I can't wait to get all of you back because y'all didn't have my back. Because as we were watching the feed version of it, we're like, is this guy stupid? Like, why is he going to put up Jag and Blue? So he sat in that room knowing that he was going to play all of them. And I like what you said there, because I didn't even think of that. The old turn the key thing. It was kind of an ode to that. And it's funny because, like you said, the first few pies, oh, this is funny. People are getting pies in their face. But then when there's only a couple of pies left, it's like, oh, shoot.
Right? And then people are like, wait, where's my pie? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Funny. I appreciated that. And I love like even them. And listen, the producers are so shady when they're like showing Felicia taking out her dentures and she's like ready for her pie. And then she realizes it's not coming. She's like, oh.
Edward, Rory, and Rory said hi. Ebony, I missed one.
Hey, Rory.
Edward, Tammy, and Rory said hi to Ebony.
Hello, Tammy and Rory.
So Edward asked, do you think that the BBB is done? What do you think? The BBB.
As a whole, yes.
I forgot about
that part. Yeah, as a whole, yes. But I do think we're getting to the point where, and we'll probably get into this more, but I feel like with Cameron's steps, he missed a couple saves that he should have had in there as far as pulling numbers over to his side that really would have kind of created more distrust between the other alliances in the house. But for the most part, I think the bye-bye bees are going to be done, but you're going to see people start to isolate themselves and develop more smaller groups probably moving forward. So you'll probably see more groups of just like 2, 3, maybe 4 instead of these big, large numbers that we've been seeing.
Yeah. Thanks for that question, Edward, because it actually reminded me, I skipped that part where it showed Bowie's initial reaction to finding out that she was on the outside of her alliance when it came to knowing that they were all voting out red. And then she came to Cirie and Felicia basically crying about it. And then Felicia was like, you know how she does her strong arm thing. Like, do I have permission to just talk to you? Like, and tells Matt to leave the room, which Matt didn't like. And then she's just like, you got to just like put on your big girl pants, and people are going to have to lie to each other, and we're going to have to withhold information. and you're withholding the BBB from Cam, and he's working with you. So that's just the way this game goes, and someone's gonna have to go out the door. I kind of wanted to see more of what Bowie thought after Felicia talked to her.
Yeah,
Because I
thought
know somebody talked to her.
Yeah, I thought we would have seen more of like her thoughts, even Cam's inside of the confessionals. Like, what were they saying in the DR about, like, okay, what are your true thoughts? Like, what do you think is going on? Where do you go from here? Like, I would have loved to hear more of that when they were in the diary room. But yeah, that whole conversation was interesting. And it's just, Felicia is so unaware. It's ridiculous. Like, she continues to paint this picture or this target on her back, and I don't even think she realizes that she does it. And one thing that I love is I believe it was Tiffany from the Cookout from season 23, when she was like, you know, when I went into the house, I knew that I was older than a lot of the other house guests, so I wasn't going to be nitpicky. I wasn't going to complain about stuff because I didn't want to be that old naggy like auntie in the house. And I think Felicia hasn't really considered that, because a lot of things that she does and says is like really self-preservation and what I want and what's convenient for me. And she doesn't think about other people.
I agree. Like, she thinks that she has Jared in her back pocket. She's like, oh, since I'm aligned with Jared, and since I happen to just talk to him about this final 2 thing, and since he has the power of veto, I have the power to tell him that I want him to take me off. Not realizing that really there's actually no chance for him to do that.
Right. And that makes it even more awkward because of the fact that like this week, I'm frustrated that Cam has not done more, because the way that this week has aligned, he really had a chance to shift the power in the house, not only for just this week, but moving forward. But he hasn't pulled any numbers over to his side other than just from what we know, right? The only conversation he really had was the conversation with Jack, where he's like, listen, like, there's no putting you up, there's no backdoor, none of that. You're safe this week, I'm safe next week. But he should have been having those conversations with all the people that are currently in the middle. The if you want to consider Mimi in the middle, you know, America, Corey, he should have been trying to pull all of them so that he could have more numbers on his side. Otherwise, he's going to be in the same position next week.
Oh yeah, like I like what he did for an entertainment standpoint.
Yes.
Just like a lot of these people, they're doing things that I like as a viewer because it's entertaining. But if I was thinking strategy wise, I think that Cam leans too heavily on the people he trusts instead of trying to get a gauge of everybody. Because for some weird reason, he seems to have this big trust of Jared. And Jared is playing him probably more than anyone else. And he kind of relies on, okay, if I have one guy who I know is connected to all these people, if I have him, I'm trusting him to give me real information about Cirie, about Felicia, whoever he's connected to. And then if I have Corey's going to give me all of this information, and Matt's going to give me all this information. And low key, every single one of the people he trusts is lying to him.
Right.
So he's not really, I agree with you that he kind of,
And something that frustrates me.
No, I was just saying, like, I agree with you that he's not doing it all.
Yeah. And one thing that frustrates me with him and all of the house guests pretty much is they are not critical thinkers and strategizers. So like they literally focus week to week, which I know on every season of Big Brother, you have a lot of people that will like, oh, the target this week is this person. Next week, we'll worry about this person. And then when you get to the next week, there's a completely different target. But what this group doesn't do that frustrates me the most is they compartmentalize information. Like almost every single house guest has information that they could be using as leverage and no one is using it. I'm like, you need to think back, like Cameron, you literally put Jag on the block. You were blindsided that week 4, when no one went home, right? And then you had a 10-0 vote thinking that Jag was going to be safe. but like there's just so much. And I'm like, then you ended up on the block and you just got off the block. And so you're not remembering what is happening week to week. You're just focusing on what happened last Thursday.
Andre
Hey,
said, hey,
Andre.
welcome to the BB church. So do you think that we're going to get a double eviction soon? What do you think?
I don't know. So I think I've been trying to calculate how we get to 100 days. And based on, if my calculations are right, hopefully my mouth is mathing, okay? I don't want to be mad at me. But based on the calculations that I did, we're going to end up at 100 days based on how the season is right now. So in order for there to be a double eviction, I think there will also have to be a battle back too. So we would have to gain a number and then you could have a double eviction, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because I see what you're saying. Like, as is, you would have to have one elimination per week to make the 100 days. Mm-hmm. So they would need to have like somebody coming back in somehow, battle back to make the math. Mm-hmm. Right? Okay. So Rory said, I know that people who watch the live feeds get annoyed when BB cuts the feeds. However, I am glad that we have some things to look forward to in the actual episode. Yeah, I always say the main thing that I get out of the produced episodes is the diary entries and also showing us the ceremonies. Those are the two main things that we get.
Yeah, so. I agree, because it's the diary rooms, because when you're watching the live feeds, and this is something that kind of frustrates me about the live feed watchers, is people take what they see on the live feeds for face value, right? Yeah. Just like everyone was like, oh, Cameron's putting up Jag and Blue, right? And me, I was thinking, he said something to Blue about shock and awe, and I think we talked about this, where he kept saying something about shock and awe or people being surprised. And I was like, well, that makes me think he's going to do something different. He's just telling people this. And so when you're watching the live feeds, you have to remember, what's the saying? Like, believe half of what you see and none of what you hear. So that's how you have to take the live feeds, because you never know if people, what you see is really what they think, is really what they want, or if they're just, playing the game.
Yep, that's a great point, because on the feeds we're seeing them playing the game. So if they have a conversation and they say, "Oh, this is my next 5 targets," it could literally just be, "I'm talking to this person who I don't trust, so I made up 5 targets to throw them off the trail." Then we get into the episode, and then they'll say that to them, and they'll be like, "Yeah, I was telling them that I'm going to go after this one and this one because I'm just placating them." You know how they set that up on the last week episode with the Legend 25 thing, where they put a back-to-back diary entry of Cam and not last week, but the week that Cam was HOH, the previous week, where Cam and Sari were back-to-back on the episode, where he was like, "I'm doing this for the Legend 25 so that they'll protect me going forward." And then it showed her right after, like, Cam is probably thinking right now, "I'm doing this for the Legend 25 so that they'll protect me going forward."
Yes.
I thought that was funny. So who do you think is tighter with Jag? Do you think Blue is tighter with Jag or Jared in the long run? If she had to choose between one of those two.
Definitely Jared. It's interesting. Because with Blue, who she is in the house and on the live feeds is totally different from the Blue that we get in the DR. And I'm like, oh, she's such an influencer, because she is turning this personality on when she gets in the diary room. Like, we do not see this in the game. But I honestly think she's kind of playing Jag a little bit, and she's more so tighter with Jared. And I honestly don't believe they have a really like a relationship based off of substance, but I think based on both like Blue and Jared's personality, I could see them being together outside of the house just because of the opportunities that this show would bring them.
Yeah, so at first, if you asked me this question a week ago or 2 weeks ago, or whenever they kind of first connected, I would have said Jag. because it seemed like Jag's her guy, and Jared is kind of just, all right, I'm having fun with him, but game-wise, I don't trust him. But after he did all the hinting, my mom's in the game, blah, 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 and she's been so quiet about all that stuff. I've noticed that she still talks to Jag, but she puts her life in the game in Jared's hand. She goes off of everything that Jared is saying is happening in the house. Sometimes she doesn't even dig for her own information. She just takes his word for it. So I think out of the two of them, that's who she is leaning towards heavily.
For sure.
So Steven said he knows they're lying. I think I guess he's responding to what I said about Cam. I think he's giving Jared the rope. What do you think?
I think he was trusting Jared. Initially, he really thought that Jared was blindsided by the votes, and it's just based on the information that he had, right? So the night before, Jared went in the room and was like, hey, they're telling me that Felicia's trying to flip the vote. So he already kind of had that seed there. But yesterday, when they had that long, 2-hour talk, and Jared was just volunteering random information, I'm like, dude, what? Just leave already. You are giving away. And I think Jared and Cameron are kind of the same person.
Yes.
They're both very arrogant and egotistical and the man of the house, so to speak. And so I think Jared doesn't want Cameron to feel like he has one up on him. And Cameron doesn't want Jared to feel the same way. So they're both trying to exert their dominance, so to speak. But Jared was just like, I want you to know that, I know everything that's going on in this house and I'm connected. I know this about this person, this and about this. But he doesn't realize the information that he was giving is actually kind of telling on himself too. And also giving Cameron a lot of valuable information. So it's interesting to see what Cameron does with that and what he picks up and what he doesn't. Because I know when Jared left, Cameron was like, oh, interesting. That was interesting. So
you know what made that what made that feel really pronounced to me was Jag had just had a conversation with Cameron, that whole conversation where he said, if you can guarantee 100% in front of your family and whatever, that if I don't put you up, that you don't put me up next week, we work together type of thing, where we build this trust back up, but you can't tell anybody. And then right after that, Jared talks to him and he's telling him, Jag said this and this and this. So I know Cam is sitting here thinking in his head, okay, I know the conversation that I had with Jag, and I know that Jag does not want to go on the block. So this seems like Jared might just be saying this as gaming stuff. And you're right. It's like he keeps talking. It's overkill. He'll give some information and you're like, oh, that's kind of smart. But then he's saying more and more. And then he's talking about Cirie. He's not even being asked about Cirie.
Right.
And he's talking about her.
And Cameron gave him an out. Cameron's like, listen, if you don't want, which I think it was reverse psychology. He's like, all right, if you don't want to use it, you don't have to use the veto. And I think Cameron knows the type of person that Jared is. Jared wants to use this veto. He just wants to make sure he uses it, but he can still protect him and Cirie. So Cameron's like, listen, you don't have to use the veto. And then Jared's like, well, let's talk about it. Let's explore our options. It's
Jared's
you don't want to get the blood on your hands.
Right. Jared's dynamics with Cameron and Jared's dynamics with Corey are both funny to me. Because it's like Corey and him have a fomance. They have a fake brotherhood where they're like, oh, yeah, he's my brother. I like him, but I don't like him. He's an a-hole, but I love him, but I don't trust him, but I like him. It's you know what I mean? They don't really work together really, but they talk to each other all the time and they argue all the time. But then they say they're on the same side and they allegedly have a final two.
Yeah, I think Jared is used to yes people around him to where he can
Yeah,
just say anything and they believe it or they pretend like they believe it. And the fact that Corey, kind of pushes back and how it has like this free, independent like thought process and his own way of thinking, Jared doesn't like that. He wants him to just think what he thinks.
that is a solid point. So Edward said, Ebony and Mark, between Izzy and Felicia, who should be evicted? I've been saying Izzy because she's a bigger target than Felicia, which I think too. But I understand why she can be evicted. So which one of those two?
Yeah, I think Izzy is definitely the biggest target and should go. But sometimes in Big Brother, people get evicted just because they make other house guests uncomfortable. And I think Felicia
Oh,
does that for a lot of people. And so I could see them evicting her just because it's like, listen, we don't have to deal with her anymore. She's not going to be mixing up the alliances. She's not going to be making us cut the lights out and yelling at production. And they would just rather play the game without her. But if Cameron is, milking the last little bit of his HOH that he has left, he should be trying to pull those numbers and convince people that Izzy is the bigger target and needs to go and just be uncomfortable a little bit longer with Miss Felicia still in the house.
yeah. I mean, this is kind of his Hail Mary at this point because he doesn't really have too many numbers. That's even why Bowie, when they said, well, you're either going to be with us or you're going to be with him. And it's like, so am I going to declare that it's me and Cam versus the house? Even if I don't want to work with y'all, I don't want all of you to gang up and vote me out. So I'm going to work with you by default, she was kind of saying. This seems to say something similar to what you were saying, that Cam did a great job shaking things up this week, but he really didn't see his full plan through, backdooring Cirie. Jared isn't about to use the POV tomorrow. Little does he know, though.
Yeah, I think in Cam's mind, when he put Felicia on the block, he knew that people were trying to push him towards her. So I think he did that in a sense of just still, even though it's shock and awe, it was still kind of some security for them because then they're like, oh, well, it doesn't matter because Felicia's on the block and we wanted to get her out anyway. But then at the last minute, I think Cameron thought that he could win the POV or maybe Jack or someone would win. And then they would be able to take Felicia down and then put Cirie up. But it also wouldn't make sense to put her up unless you were trying to get her out because you're just getting unnecessary blood on your hands if you put her up and then she's not the target.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. I thought that even though he was doing something bold, he was like, okay, if everyone keeps coming in the room and saying Felicia, I'll make her one of the choices. And then I will put my other person that I want out as this choice. So it's like, but then the other thing is, I don't know if Izzy is going to be the person that they choose. That's the whole thing. Because Jared and Cirie have planted these Felicia seeds. I mean, she's done some of it on her own, but if we've been watching the live feeds all of last week, from the time Jared had that conversation with Cirie, it was like, oh, it's go time. We got to plant these Felicia seeds. So Cirie's telling Matt, she talks too much. And then they're going around, oh, Cam, she was supposed to keep this secret, but she couldn't keep the secret. And now you hear everybody else whispering without Jared and Cirie there and saying the same thing. So what you said at the beginning of this video, I don't remember how you said it, but the house is very impressionable when it comes to planting an idea. Like you said, there's no critical thinkers. That's what it was. They hear something and there is just go time. I'm going to spread this around and around. And that's why Cirie is having a field day in that house.
Yeah, you could tell she's used to playing these type of games, which I still don't think she's playing a perfect game, but no. she has brought a lot of her survivor skills into the house. I think she just needs to slow the pace down a little bit. I think she's used to a much faster game and, they get evicted out much faster on Survivor.
Yeah, exactly. And Survivor is a game that you thrive. You're supposed to survive until the next day. And if you can plant like a quick seed of paranoia about somebody, you can get yourself out of a jam. Like if they're targeting you, oh shoot, I found out that I'm the main target. Okay, so let me say that this person is hiding an idol in their bag and spread that around. And then next thing you know, the whole vote flips. So I think this vote flipping thing is fun for her. Literally, it's just like entertainment. Last season they had a week where no one went home and 2 double evictions. This could be a pause to extend the days. Okay. I'm a Snappy Kid. What's your favorite pie? You can answer that one first. I think I have an answer to that.
I would have to say probably lemon meringue.
I like the I get if it's considered a pie, I like cheesecake with cherries. That was a funny question. They need Izzy to help them get Cam out. What do you think of that?
Not really. I mean, what has Izzy done to help them? Really? So I think regardless if Izzy is there or not, they will be able to get Cameron out. They have enough people on their side to push it. Like at this point, if Cameron doesn't pull numbers over to his side by the end of his HOH, then he literally has to win head of household every week he's eligible to play, or POV every week that he's not HOH. And it's still a lot of game left to play, and the odds of him being able to do that are going to be very slim.
This is exactly what I said. He can't win everything. Michael tried that last year, and impressive that he got as far as he did, and he got that record number of comp wins. But I remember especially Monty and Turner were talking about it. Monty was like, all he has to do is lose once and he's out. Everybody knows that. And he's already been on the block. What was it, twice or 3 times?
3, because he was on the block the first 2 weeks and then initially up against Red.
Before he got the power of veto. Exactly. So they're not going to let us a 4th chance slip away. I don't care who's next to him. I'm pretty sure that the House would be like, we need to get this guy out of here because he's just gunning for every win and he's winning so much. And now he shook the House, but he didn't use the HOH, like you said, to form relationships.
And like, pick bigger targets too.
To pick bigger targets, and then to not tell Blue. Okay, he tells Jag. That was a good move to tell Jag and kind of get Jag on his side. But to not tell Blue, like you have to tell some people, I'm saving you. Even if they were not, it's just you're not saving them specifically, but you're just like, okay, I'm using this as leverage. I could have put you on the block because I'm HOH and I thought about you, but decided not to make some stuff up. Just so that you can try to form some semblance of people that might save you for next week.
Yeah, because I understand him wanting to be vengeful, but after that immediate nomination, he should have been trying to build numbers and been like, look, I put them on the block because there's a clear power dynamic in the House. This trio is running the House. If we don't do anything about it now, they're just going to steamroll to the end and kick us off one by one. And he should have been trying to recoup. I don't know if he would have been able to get Matt, but seeing the interaction with Matt and Felicia on today's episode, I think there may be a little bit of trust diminishing there with that side of the House. But he probably could have pulled Matt. America has been waiting to make a big move, so he could have had America and Corey, and then he has Bowie, and then I think he possibly could have pulled over Mimi as well, because Mimi is riding with them, but I also think she thinks that their ideas are dumb and they're too emotional players to actually, implement strategy. And I feel like Mimi probably would be a strategizer if she had other people that she could strategize with.
And yeah, exactly. And the thing is, America and Corey can be swayed. In my opinion, like they can be swayed, but I don't think that Cam makes a compelling enough argument, because the way they're thinking of it now is like, yes, we want Cam to make this move, but then we think right after he makes the move, he's out the door. So we're not really going to latch onto that ship. We're just going to let him do our dirty work, and then let the house do whatever they're going to do after that. Hi, Lisa. And Lisa said, love seeing Ebony here.
Oh, thank you, Lisa.
Mimi is probably definitely the best critical thinker to me. Sari feeds off the chaos. She does. It's like a skill. The more chaos that's going on in the house is the better Sari looks. She's like, oh, there's drama between people? I'm going to dive right in there and gas this thing up. Like we saw it in the episode where she's talking to Cam. Red told everybody about you, and you guys were the chillers, and he was like, he hated you, and it was like, you are. I see where Jared got that from.
Yes,
Jared does the same thing. He gasses up things and makes them sound worse than they are. Boston cream is my favorite. Mark, me too. I love cheesecake, and other than that, sweet potato pie. I love sweet potato pie too. I eat that at Thanksgiving usually.
Yes.
Cameron screwed himself. He seriously has to rely on comps at this point. Yep.
Yep.
So Ebony, what I love about you is that you definitely, bring the BB stats.
Oh, thank you. I love BB, and I was telling Mark this, like, no one in my family watches Big Brother, so I always like lean towards online communities to really talk about it, because I get tired of like having to explain like what a head of household is, the power of veto, and all that stuff. But yes, I love me some BB.
Please put some applause in the chat to show some appreciation for Ebony being here. And she had to come on here late because of the show starting late and ending late. So thanks for being flexible also.
Yes, no problem.
Lemon meringue here. What did you say?
No, I was just saying no problem. But I'm here for the lemon meringue.
Oh, okay. Me too. Although, I would gladly take cheesecake over pie. Where are we here? Mimi is a political, and you could see that she's a political consultant, because what she did in the first week, I noticed right away, she was not jumping into all those conversations. She was not jumping into those big alliances. She was like, I'm just going to sit back and watch and see what everybody is saying and analyze the data. Then she would go into the storage room by herself at night and talk to herself. And she was like, why is everybody crying? You just met each other. I don't get it. You guys play the game with such emotion. I don't understand. And she's thinking tactically. So I think it's just what you said, Ebony, where she's like, I wish I had somebody on that level with me, who we could strategize together and make sense and do things and stick to them.
Yes. Early on, I think in like week 2, her and America were kind of talking a lot. And I was thinking, like, I had already painted them as a final 2 in my head. I was like, oh, okay, they're going to be an alliance. They're going to make a final 2, and they're going to ride this thing out, because America is really a strategic thinker somewhat as well, but she just kind of gets distracted easily.
Okay. Jared said that's all. Any of the house guests do sit back and allow others to do the dirty work. I mean, that's kind of what he does too. Well, he doesn't sit back. That's the one part I'll give him. He doesn't know how to sit back. He has to be in every room. He has to talk to everybody. He has to Jared feels like he can make sure with certainty that whatever he says is going to happen. Because you hear how he'll talk to Cirie or Izzy and be like, I 1000% know that this is what Cameron is going to do. I'm not worried about Bowie at all because Bowie said this. I know 10,000% that Blue is going to do this. Like you can't know about people like that, especially in a game where they're constantly having different conversations. That one conversation they had with you at 10 o'clock in the morning where they guaranteed you that thing, A, they could be lying, and B, they could talk to whoever else in between and be like, oh, this is new information that I didn't hear before, so I changed my mind. Nobody can say anything's happening with 1,000, 10,000% certainty like he keeps telling people.
Yeah. And I low-key, I think Jared is going to take Cirie as far as he can, but I wouldn't be surprised if he cuts her at any point. So like even in some of like his DRs when he's talking about, you know, I know my mom wants me to do this, but I want to play my own game. I feel like him being on this show, just based on what I see from him, Jared's the type of person who loves significance. And at this current point in his life, his significance is the fact that he's Cirie's son. Like my mom was on Survivor, and I feel like that's why he had to tell Blue his secret, right? Because I feel like that's probably how he got chicks outside in the real world. It's like, you know, my mom was on Survivor. But I love what
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I just think he wants to establish his own self in the reality world and also say, like, I can do this too. I can win Big Brother. So I definitely see him taking Cirie out when the numbers start to dwindle.
Yeah, and a lot of his scenarios do not include her that I've been hearing lately. And I feel like I said this before, but it's not, you got to put your ego to the side in that case. Because I've been in a position of my dad's shoes, like being in my dad's shoes and him being somebody like at my school, for an example. He was teaching at my college before I got there. And everyone's like, oh, I know your dad. He's so cool, whatever. And I didn't like that. Like, I want to be myself. I don't even want you to know that my dad is here, you know, that type of thing. But if we're on a game competing for $750,000 and he's or whoever parent or whoever has been there not on this show, but you know, on reality TV shows and won one of them and been far in a few of the other ones. I'm like, yeah, I want to play my own game, but making a name for myself is not a bigger deal than winning. But I think what you're saying is his ego is so big that he feels like he can take her out and win. Like he would take her out and think that that's the best move for his game. And then he wants to be like, ha, mom, we were on this game together. I took you out. I beat you. And I took the $750,000 home. Now I'm Jared Fields.
And instead of saying my mom was on Survivor, Cirie's my mom, he can say I was on Big Brother. I won Big Brother.
But I just think that it would lower his odds significantly because I think she does a lot of damage control for him on that show. These are all the applauses for you here. Edward, Rory, Ma, Lisa, Gail, and Nappy Kid. And Andre, I see down there also.
Thank you.
Tonight was one of the best BB shows. It needed some action. I thought that the cast was, this was the most boring cast until tonight. Hi, Rebecca. I don't think I've seen you here. Anyone ship Matt X Jack? I just learned what ship means during the season. Like, I realized that millennial Gen Z is different than me. You know, like, I'm starting to realize we're in different categories when I start to hear these things.
I don't even know what ship means.
Ship means relationship.
Oh, it's abbreviated. I see. I'm cool, Auntie, now.
I feel better now that I wasn't the only one who didn't know that.
No.
My degree is in political science. She's great at assessing the group. So here's my thing with Mimi. She is definitely great at assessing the group. She sees everything that's going on and she knows what the best moves are to make, but she doesn't seem to have a lot of social clout with the other people in the house. She's kind of just in the rooms. So do you, Ebony, see a route for her to build her own kind of team that can start taking people out and getting her to the final?
Not at this point. She's going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting, because at this point in the game, like, I understand why she came into the house and she wanted to kind of sit and observe, because I think that's what you should do the first couple of days. Like, I hate people that just rush in the house and it's like, oh, this is my final two. And it's like, you might not even like this person in 2 weeks. And so I think that sitting back and observing is good, but you can only do that for like the first week. After that, you need to start building relationships that are going to be strong and lasting. And at this point, I think everyone has at least one final two, except for Mimi. And like, I haven't really heard her talking like, what does the final five look like? What does the final three look like with anyone? And at this point, you should be kind of narrowing down, you know, your position with other people in the house. And I don't think she's done that. Which is why I was hoping for Mimi in America.
Yeah, and I think that even if that's your natural tendency, you have to switch it up a little bit for the sake of the game. If you know the history of the game, you have to be an active observer. So you don't have to strongly commit to somebody and be like, I love you, you're my number one, like what Riley and these people were doing. Oh my goodness, I can't imagine my life without you. I'm crying if you possibly leave this house. Like, you don't have to overcommit like that on week one, but at least kind of be like, hey, I like you. I think that you're somebody that I might be able to work with. You know, give them a little bit that gives you like,
I can see us going far in this game.
like use some political statements. Things that give
in
you
the near future.
Yes, things that give you openings that after you've seen more of them, that you can say, hey, you know, I've noticed that, you know, I talked to you earlier and said that we could possibly build on something. I've noticed that we vibe on a lot of things and we agree on whatever, but she kind of missed that element. So I see her road to, as much as I like her, I see her road to getting to a final as hard. And I think that she needs to win an HOH soon. And in that HOH, she needs to do a lot of work to get to the top rung, because everyone's just looking at her as she's alone. So we can just take her out. Like, they all know that she's smart. They all know that she's, you know, calculated and educated and all that. Not necessarily that they know what she does, but you can just tell from speaking to her. But they also are like, she's an outlier. So whenever we want to get rid of her, she will never have the numbers. That's what they say about her, and that's what they say about Bowie.
Yeah, I think at this point, everyone is pinning them as jury votes.
Yes. Mark and Ebony, how would you make the perfect BB backdoor performance that would get you an Emmy? You're asking some interesting questions tonight, Edward. BB backdoor performance that would get you an
I don't
Emmy.
know, but you guys know one of my favorite, and it's so generic and random, but you know, one of my favorite backdoor like one-liners from BB is when Ian, who did he put on the block? I think it was it Dan or either Boogie, and he's like, Papa Squat. My favorite line besides the Rachel, you know, Flo, just grab her life vest. Because it's Ian, you know, he was a little kid and he was like, oh, he would never backdoor anyone. And then they get the nominations and he's like, Papa Squat.
Classic. America is my favorite, but the more and more she talks about Corey, I really want to bump her down and bump Mimi up to my favorite. Tammy, you coming with that shade. She was throwing some America shade. Political science, that sounds stressful. I know, right? All day. That ought to put 20 years on your life. I'm not sure what that's a response to. Where are you from, Rebecca? Let me know. Let me know where you're from and how you found the page. Go ahead, Ebony. What were you saying?
No, I was just saying the last comment was, I believe, referring to the ship comment. That we didn't know what ship
yes.
was.
Oh, yes. Oh, I guess she's not I guess we're not the only ones who did not know what shipped means. Nicole is gonna win. Team Millennial. I don't know that. Yeah, like there's a whole new thing after us. I'm old now. I didn't know how young I sounded. I've heard the word ship for years. This show and this chat was literally the first time I ever heard that ever, and that was a week or two ago. Welcome, Rebecca, and all new. Okay, please make sure to like, subscribe, share, and continue to comment. I was thinking of that. If Mimi and Sari ever got together, because I was watching some conversations they were having early on, and it looked like Mimi was giving Sari a bunch of intel about the house. Mm-hmm. If there's one thing Sari is good at, it's like assessing the people around her and utilizing the information that they're giving her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Sari is a lot like Derek, where she values information. And so if you can bring her intel that she didn't already know, then that's going to be like, okay, this is someone I could trust. I could see myself working with. And I think if Izzy wasn't in the house, then Nicole could probably bump up and become a little bit closer with Sari.
Mm-hmm. So Ma says, Ian is one of my favorites. I loved BB14, probably my favorite season. What's yours? Mine is 10. What is yours?
I love Ian. Ian, I have a lot of people like BB players that I love, but overall season 16 is my favorite. My favorite alliance is the Hitmen. Like, I just love Derek. He's a strategic.
I said on
he was a strategic thinker. I loved it.
I said on my channel that my channel last year that I said season 16 so many times, and everyone was like, "Get out of here! You don't know Big Brother." All of a sudden on this channel, I say season 16, and so many people are like, "I loved season 16, and I loved the Hitman," and I'm like, "Thank you!" Like that season was so exciting.
It was, but also through the years, like Big Brother has changed, right? Like in the earlier, like I also love season 11 just because I thought Jordan was like cute as a button. And I love her and Jeff together. And I'm not even a showman's person, but earlier seasons when you truly had like people who watch Big Brother in the house, the game was a lot different versus now when you don't necessarily have people who are fans of the show. They've been watching it for years. You have all these recruits in the house or people that are more so like social media influencers. It kind of changes the dynamic of the game, and it makes the games like the feeds are more salacious in a sense for drama and things like that, but not necessarily the strategy and the gameplay.
Please put I'm gonna answer that. Please put an applause for Rebecca. I went to college in Michigan, so I was telling everyone how I'm familiar with the Midwest. I've been to Michigan, Indiana, Chicago, and Ohio. And that's cool that the algorithm sent you here. Another person sent by the algorithm. But yeah, so the influencers being in the house. Yes to the Instagram gods. So the influencers being in the house, you're right. It leads for more potential fights and, spiciness and erratic gameplay and things that might just feed the internet and the Twitterverse. But it also kind of, I understand that the people like you and others who have been talking in my chat, not necessarily today, but in general, that say, I love the Dan Giesling, I loved an Evil Dick, I loved the early seasons with Janelle and Kesar and all these people, and the game is played in a totally different way. You're not going to get that back, sadly, because I feel like now they highly think about viral moments and bringing in people, like bringing in Red. I'm not saying I didn't like Red, but he has a huge TikTok following. So that was part of the casting for him. Get this guy with the TikTok following. He didn't seem to know much about the show. What is Bowie doing in there? Like Bowie seems confused all the time, you know. So
yeah, Bowie's like, oh, you want me to be on TV?
Worse, I feel like.
Yeah, you have less fans and more recruits.
Yes, every year seems to be getting more recruits. Where is this? Season 16 was I love season 16. Yes. Remember that episode where Cody and Derek and Caleb were against Frankie, and he had to do that that thing with the ropes by himself, and Caleb the cowboy, he just sat down. He's like, I'm not doing this with you. And Frankie won by himself. He was like, this one's for you, Ariana. This one's for you, Team Grande. And I'm like, are y'all not listening to this guy?
yes. I like Frankie too. I like the most of the cast of season 16. Every season there's a few people that I like, but season 16 was probably one of my favorites, where it's like I would follow these people. If I had like Instagram, I would follow these people, you know, and like see what they're up to outside of just being in the house. But even I listened to all of Derek's podcasts. He has like a true crime podcast. I listened to that, and I'm not even into true crime, but I do just like his analytical thinking and like his view on things.
You know what was the funny thing about that season, Ebony?
Yeah,
I was watching that season. That was the first season I ever watched of Big Brother, right? I asked somebody to recommend a season to me, and they said 16. So I'm like, okay, I watched it. I didn't know he was in control of the house until we reached maybe the last 4 or 5 weeks. You know, when they showed the montage of him laying in bed with people when they were crying to him, giving them hugs, talking to everybody, giving them suggestions, but not really saying you have to do this. He was like anti-Jared, where it was like, I'm telling you things, but I'm not telling you in a way that makes you feel like I forced you to do this, or I'm making you do this and giving you an ultimatum. And then here goes Cody knocking out everybody in the competitions for him. So you're like, oh, this kind of chubby guy, he's not winning anything, and he's just hugging everybody up and being a nice guy. But then when they all got in the jury house, they were like, how did you get here? And how did you get here? Wait a minute. I think Derek has been controlling this whole thing.
Yes. And it was so seamless. But I think his background, you know, being an undercover police officer helped him a lot, because and this is what this house needs. They should have just watched BB16 and was like, study Derek, right? Because this season, there are no secrets. Everyone tells everything. And one of the things I loved about Derek just sat back and collected information. Like, yeah. What do you think? Why do you say that? Like, he really didn't contribute to conversations outside of the people he aligned with. He just collected information, and he used that information to his advantage. And in this house, when people get information, they feel like they just have to tell everybody else. And I'm like, why the things you should be keeping to yourself, you're not. And the things you should be using as leverage, you're keeping to yourself. Like, make it make sense.
I've never heard a season before this one where I've heard so much of, I'm doing what's in the best interest of the house. Whatever the house wants me to do, I'm going to do it. The house, since when did the house become an alliance? You know what I mean? The whole house, you're allowed to be like, you're allowed to be like, you know, it's funny. I watched the Winner's Circle exit interview. I think it was either with Hisam or Riley, but I think it was Hisam. And they were like, you know that you don't have to tell them everything. It was Riley. they were like, you don't have to tell everybody everything when they ask you questions, right? Like, it's Big Brother, so you're allowed to lie and you're allowed to withhold information. That's part of the game. And she was like, yeah, that's
it's Big Brother. You're allowed to bounce checks.
I need one of those, man. What's going on with these people? Like, Felicia's like, I'm just gonna ask you straight up, girl, who's in your alliance? Well, Jag, this one, that one. And I'm like, what are you saying right now? You don't have to tell her all that. I'm not comfortable answering that question just yet. It's still early. I have some people that I gravitate towards early, but I don't really know as of yet. Come on, like, think of something. Don't just start listing names.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so sad that we'll never get a classic BB season. It's true. Edward loves the early seasons more than the current seasons. I do love a Dan Giesing. He's my absolute favorite.
And something too, you have to think about the earlier seasons, you didn't have as much viewership for Big Brother. So when people actually went into the house, it was more authentic of people just trying to figure out the game from week to week. And now that Big Brother has been around for 25 years, you have people like Hannah who are like, oh, I'm going on this show. Let me watch as many seasons as I can. And so they're basing their strategy off of previous gameplay instead of them going into the house and trying to develop their own strategy. They're just like, oh, this is what they did in the past. I need to make an alliance. If the alliance doesn't have a name, it's not official, right? Instead of actually building a strategy that's going to be unique to them and work for their situation.
Let me tell you something, Ebony. I think this was season 14, I believe. I was watching which was the season with Jerry? Was that 14 or 10?
The old Jerry, that was 10.
10, okay. So it was like a montage of everything that happened on season 10. The montage was like 2 minutes long, and from what I saw that was said on that montage, they would have wanted everybody evicted from the house if this was happening when Twitter was happening. The things they were saying to each other in that 2-minute little clip. I mean, I saw the season, but that was before I watched all the newer seasons. So I was like, oh, this is what Big Brother is like. No, this is what Big Brother was like then. You can't say any of those words at this point. So it's somewhat Big Brother's fault, but it's also somewhat the social climate that we have.
But also, I understand that you have to kind of like evolve, with times. But one of the things that I have personally always loved about the Big Brother house is the fact that it is like a microcosm of what is like living in America. Like, especially as a minority, you're going to be outnumbered by other people, right? When you break down gender, there's going to typically be a difference there. You're going to gravitate towards people in the house who are like you in some way. Maybe you guys are from the same state, and like, oh, we're both from Texas, so let's be together, let's work together. Or you may have people who went to the same college, or they're around the same age. So how people interact in the house is typically how people interact in society. And what I think that CBS could do better is more education versus them just kind of minimizing things or sweeping it under the rug. Like, use it as an educational moment. Like, I did appreciate the package in tonight's show with a Jag, and they talked about him growing up and him having his sync faith and how, people look at him differently or whatever. And I wish they would have went more into that. But I did appreciate them highlighting, how he's experienced growing up in America, being sync in a small town where he's a minority.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. Not everything needs to be just eliminated, and not everyone needs to just be canceled. I think there's definitely more opportunities to make an episode, take out some of this filler stuff, and put some more emphasis on, this is the town that I grew up in. This is the kind of things that were said or done in this town, and this is what I know. And then show CBS or whatever, giving them like the education on you can't do this in these environments. And then maybe even show the house guests kind of interacting with each other. Like, you know, something that disappointed me was with the Luke ejection. I mean, whatever, he got ejected. But I wish that we had seen more of that house meeting. They showed us a little 1 minute snippet of it. Jared says Corey said something, Jared said something, boom, we're on to the rest of the episode. So now that just leaves the Twitterverse to just fight over it for the last, you know, however many weeks it's been. Nobody learned anything.
Right. Yeah.
I remember Donnie. Donnie was they thought Donnie was some kind of FBI or secret agent or something, and he's like, I'm just a farmer, like, what's going on? Cody said later that he felt extremely bad about how they were trying to push that narrative because they really believed it. Like, he's way smarter and has more knowledge about stuff than he lets on.
I like when they have like the Reds and the Dunnies and the Nicoles, because I'm from Texas, so I'm in the South. And whenever I meet people, they always like, oh, like, you have such a Southern accent. Where are you from? Right. And I think when you watch Big Brother, you see people from New York with the New York accents. You see people from the South and how they come into the house. And it's like, hey, outside of this environment, I never would have talked to this person. But you find a relationship with someone where you build a friendship outside the house. And it's like, you know what? In the real world, I never would have even stopped and said hi to you. But because we have this experience together, I have a new lifelong friend that I never would have had. And I think that's how we should be in society in general.
That's my favorite part of Big Brother, because I live in New York. So everybody walks with tunnel vision. They don't look up at each other. They look down. They walk past each other. If you talk to somebody, it's offensive. So that's my favorite part of Big Brother, that you experience all these people from different cultures. And you have conversations with them. Red's like, this is what it's like on my farm. And Cerie's like, this is what it's like in the hood. And this one is like, this Jag's like, this is what it's like with my Sikh background. You know what I mean? And you're like, wow, if I had not been in this house, you 15, 16 people and me would never have really interacted. But now, like, even with Matt's disability, I remember when they were sitting down and he was explaining everything to them, and they were like, wow, I've never really spoken to anybody with this disability to know the things that you're saying. So I love that. I agree with you there.
Yeah. And there was even, I wish they would show, which they may show in further episodes down the line, but I loved on the live feeds, like one day he was in the bathroom talking to, I believe it was Jag in America, and they were kind of whispering, and he's like, hey, he was like, if you're going to whisper, it's fine, but look at me so that I can like read your lips and know what you're saying. Because if you guys are just looking at each other, it's hard for me to tell what both of you are saying. And so I wish that they would show stuff like that, that really just educates people on like how to interact with someone who may be hard of hearing.
Yes, I agree with that. They cut some of that stuff out. I just wanted to answer Rebecca's question. Love this chat. How often do you do it? I do this chat every day, but I love having Ebony on here. This is her first time on here. So throw me a thumbs up if you want to see Ebony come back here, please. And if you could come back, like what kind of availability might you have? If you would be able to answer that now.
I'm pretty flexible. Yeah, maybe I'm pretty flexible in the afternoon.
Afternoons, okay. So we'll talk about that. Didn't Frankie and yes, both of their grandfathers passed during the season, and they bonded on that. Oh yeah, what did you think about the Stinko-meter? That was a question that was asked. The Stinko-meter.
I don't know. I didn't. I guess it's just a part of the Humuliverse, but I feel like it's getting like you have to compete with TikTok, right? So TikTok is all about short form content, and so people are trained to
Yes.
get these micro doses of entertainment and videos. So I think with all the overproducing of them like zapping people into the bed from the nether regions and this stinkometer and all this stuff, I think they're doing this to add special effects, so to speak, to the show. But
Yes. Yes.
I don't know if that's really necessary for the audience that actually watches Big Brother. Like, I think we would be fine without all the cheesy stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I know people watch Big Brother stuff on TikTok, but yeah, I don't think that cheesy stuff is really necessary either. They get enough moments just from the conversations and from the catchphrases that they use. And you know, there's plenty of things other than showing a fart meter. That seemed like
Right.
low-hanging fruit for when it comes to creativity. I mean, I know they
Yeah.
talk about farts in the house excessively, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, the
But the
stinkometer
two
you're talking about, the thing in the house where they're going to the bathroom, is that what the
Mhm.
stinkometer is? Okay, yeah, I
Yeah.
think that was.
They
Oh,
have
this
to
is a
wear the
level
gas
10.
mask.
This is a level 8. I thought that was corny. Rebecca, I didn't actually answer your question. Or did I answer the question? Yes, I did. I go live every day, not just about every day. I have not missed a day yet. So, knock on wood, I'm going to go on all 100 days. But I will get Ebony on here as often as I can. Yeah. Thank you guys for that. BB10. I love BB10. I love BB10 because Dan was working by himself.
Mm-hmm.
Dan went on the block and Dan had to figure different things out. It wasn't like Dan had some big alliance that was protecting him. People were getting pissed at him, saying he's a weasel and a liar. And somehow he just kept maneuvering himself out of his danger that
Yeah.
he was in.
Yeah, I think Dan is another good strategic player as well that will always be like one of the best BB players of all times.
Okay, so I'm. How much time do you have left, Ebony?
I'm good on time.
Okay, so I'm probably gonna go like maybe 11:30. Well, you're 10:30 for you.
Yeah, it's 10. It's 10 for me.
10 for you. So I'm probably gonna go for another half hour. Work tomorrow, so I could stay up later, but last week I did that and I was extremely tired. Yeah, he's starting to do it almost nightly. I don't know where this almost thing is coming from. If I missed a day, let me know, because I don't think I've missed a day. I think I would have gone on Big Brother if I've said the same thing. If it was like 10 to 15 years ago, take out the social media parts. But the way people talk about you, Ebony, I could be having a conversation with you in the Big Brother house, and I forget I'm in like, oh, this person feels like a friend. And then I just quickly say something that sounds bad. And then they're like, oh, Mark is the worst person on earth. And then there's a whole like, I hate Mark Twitter section. And then I come out of the house. I'd be scared to go on Big Brother.
Oh, I know I would probably be canceled by the time I come out. I would probably be canceled 3 or 4 times. Like, I'm just such a realist and I'm a straightforward person. And I just like to say it is what it is. But you have people that don't like that, right? They want you to sugarcoat things, even when it comes to like certain words that people get offended by. Like, I some of them I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And I'm like we're not supposed to say homeless no more. We have to say unhoused. Like what's the difference? I don't understand.
I saw someone coming at Taylor on Instagram. I believe she said hard of hearing or something. And they were like, we don't say hard of hearing anymore. That is so insensitive. But it's like, I always say intent matters. Instead of just saying, what are you doing? I'm mad at you for saying that. Just tell her, okay, the deaf community does not say this anymore. We say this instead. give her the chance to learn whatever it changed to. She's saying what she
Right.
knew that it was whenever she knew it. And then if she still keeps going like, no, I'm just going to stick with what I was saying originally. Yeah,
Right.
get mad, but give them the chance
Right.
first.
And it's about education. I think there needs to be more of that and a little bit more grace too for some things. Because like even for me, I say hard of hearing, but growing up, calling someone deaf was offensive in my family. Like
Yeah,
we didn't say
yeah.
that word. Like you didn't call nobody a lie and you didn't say deaf. So saying hard of hearing to me is like a passive word, but to someone
what's
else
interesting-
that could be offensive.
Right. And what's interesting is we hear Matt say deaf in the house. He says, I'm deaf and I participated in the Deaf Olympics. So sometimes these things change so much that you might offend somebody without even attempting to. So I don't like the new era thing to be like, oh, you know what this person is canceled for today? They said this thing and this is not the right thing to say today. And I'm like, you're too focused on the right thing to say versus the intent. You know when somebody is trying to say something insulting on purpose. And when they're not, you educate them. And then if, like I said, if they keep doing it, you know, obviously they're just trying to disrespect you, but they don't even go to that. They skip steps there. Which you've said in my chats many times when I've said that. So I already know you felt that way. Ma said that everyone seems to be either from California, New Jersey, or New York, or some other major city like Chicago. Our Virginian representation was Sam, and she was crazy. These thumbs up are for you, by the way. I'm way behind. Rory, Holly, Edward, these people all want to see you again.
Yay! Thank you.
Tammy, this is a lot of people. Rebecca, Gail, Harmony, Lisa. The majority of you in here. There's only 23 in here, so that's the majority of this chat.
Well, thank you guys. I will definitely have to come back.
They should highlight way more about everyone's lives. Yes. And personalities and experiences. Yes. Why did Amazing Race and Survivor get an extra half hour? And we feel like we get this really chopped up version where they don't put too many things. Key critical details seem to be missing in there for me. Me and Ebony love the pies also. I definitely love the pies.
I love the pies. I think they should bring, if they're not going to bring back the key box, they should do pies every nomination ceremony.
Did you notice the way that the pies were delivered was different based on the person? He gets us to read, the pie is like, I hope you like cherries. He gets to Jared, it's like, bang. Like, depending on who he's delivering the pie to, he's like, I don't want to do this pie too hard. Matt can get a hard pie. Felicia can't because I don't want her to go off on me.
I loved it. I appreciated it. And I feel like that adds to the element of suspense, not only for viewers, because I remember back in the day when you see them and you're like waiting for your whoever you're rooting for, like, please let their key turn. Please let their key be in there. And so just that whole ceremony process was a different feeling. But I think it also impacts the game as well, because people are like, well, dang, did I talk too much? Should I have shared this? Should I have did this? And so then you're still getting their wheels turning about what they're going to do differently based on the order. And they're like, well, dang, like I was one of the last 3 people, or I was the last 5. And so all of that, I think, adds to kind of the suspense, but also trust, you know, within the game, and people start questioning and doubting their relationships with people.
Yeah, I agree with you, because then you get a whole rank. And when it's just the 2 people, for the most part, I mean, today was a little bit of a surprise, but for the most part, everyone knows who the 2 people are by the time it gets to the time of the eviction. Even though we don't see it, that like 3 to 4 hours that it's down, but the feeds are down before, we know that everything is being solidified during that time. So they might be like, oh my goodness, this person is up there, but they know. So if they're turning 12 keys and it's like, oh, I'm the first one, so that means I'm super safe with them. And then they get down to like 5 keys and they're like, even though I'm safe, I was 3 keys away from being the person who was up there. So now I have to think, why is my relationship so low? So I totally agree with you there. I haven't seen all your stream. Oh, okay, that's fine. I was kind of joking, by the way. I know that I've been on here every day. I'm just saying, I'm just like, is that some shade? I'm trying my hardest to be on here every day. So give me some credit. Yeah, I'm going to be going soon too. Good night, Rory. 10 years ago, the trolls were strong. Don't read the comments ever. You know what? I haven't gotten too many trolls on my page, to be honest with you guys. I'm so surprised. Because on my music and mental health page, I was getting trolls every day and they were nasty. But this page is really good. Hard of hearing. How does that offend someone? I can't speak to that. I don't even know. I would rather not speak to it. Can't say master bedroom. It's primary. I guess that's a joke. I rarely say master bedroom. I've always just said blank's bedroom. I'm here with you, Ebony. The problem too is that people who the labels belong to don't even know about the changes. Sometimes that's true, yeah. Like it's hard when people attack. You're right. More patience and grace. Grace and patience.
Yes.
Yeah, you might not even know your own category has changed because it's like people just decided now it's called this. I love Survivor and Amazing Race, but why can't Big Brother get an extra half hour? I agree. Well, what do you think, Ebony?
Yeah, they need to start making 90-minute episodes because if you are a casual viewer and you don't watch the live feeds, you miss out on so much context and so much other stuff that happens. Like, especially this week, since Thursday and Friday, like so much happened that we didn't get to see on the episode tonight, right? So if you didn't watch the live feeds, you wouldn't know about the additional conversations that Cameron had with other house guests outside of just the nominees and pretty much Cirie and what Jared, right? They kind of fast forwarded through everyone else, and just seeing some of the conversations after when the feeds did come back on after the fallout of Cameron winning HOH. So I think if they had longer episodes and cut down some of the B-roll, then we would get to see more of the things that actually happen kind of in the house, and also more DRs where people are saying like, yeah, I had this conversation, but I was totally just gaslighting him, right?
Yeah, that's so true. Ma said that it brought the nostalgia. Same thing you said. With the pies, like the pies being the replacement for the key turn thing.
Yes. I do appreciate that. Even I think this episode, and I know Derek and Cody mentioned that they may have like some type of appearance or something during the season. And so I really hope that they do. I do like for 25, I guess they're incorporating a lot of older house guests are like highlighting some of the events, like the whole Kaser thing is definitely iconic. I was glad to see them bring the pressure cooker back. I feel like the pressure cooker should be an annual event that happens every single season. But I love seeing the Kasers, and the key wheel.
Yeah, it was cool. And like the beginning part where they had Frankie and Danielle and Janelle in there, and then that little stuff where they had the BB love letters. I did think they were going to do a little bit more with those people they were bringing back, but I guess there's still 70 days of season to go. So we might get more from the people who are here in the future. Like Derek and Cody said they're coming in. I think Taylor even might have said that she's going to be participating. Some cookout members I think are going to be in there. So let's just hope that they bring some kind of excitement and suspense when they get here.
Yes. Yeah. I hope they do.
Instead of just announcing things, because that is
Yeah.
like it's cool to see them for the nostalgia purposes, to see them on video being like, this is what's happening. But I would like to see them in there in some capacity, doing something a little bit more. I'm hard of hearing, so should I be offended? Yeah, I don't know. Like I feel like when it comes to the internet, some people just come on there and they're angry about whatever is happening in their life. And it really has nothing to do with I'm trying to educate Taylor or I'm trying to educate this person. It's just like, now I see that they've gotten a little platform and some fame. So I want to do what I can do to tear them down. That's how I feel that happens.
Yeah, I think the way social media is evolving is everyone wants to be left alone to live their life the way they want to, and no one can judge them. But then they want the authority to judge other people, right? It's like, you can't judge me, but I can judge you. And it's kind of how it is on social media with cancel culture. Like, some people deserve to be canceled, right? But then there's instances where people are like, oh, call their job and get them fired, or they leave 1-star reviews on their business pages. And to me, that's crossing a line, because now you're impacting someone's livelihood, and you may or may not have facts about the situation. Like, sometimes people are outraged about things that I'm like, that's not something to be like trying to get someone fired from their job for.
And this is exactly what I'm saying. There's a couple of things. You said this stuff in the chat when I was saying the same, like a similar thing in the chat. When I was saying a similar thing on the video and you were responding to me in the chat. They have their own lives to deal with when they get out of the show. If they're doing something shady, illegal, cheating, if they're doing something, if they're saying things that are wrong that could get them reprimanded outside of the show, that's going to happen whether you call their job or not. So it takes away from the purity of being a fan of the show to be digging in to their lives, their moms, their kids, their boss, their girlfriend, boyfriend, and be like, let me try to cause contention in their personal life for when they get out. I feel like I feel like those people I can't call real fans of the show. Because then you're taking away from what's happening in the house by putting all this light on talking to somebody's girlfriend all day and DMing them and then putting it all over these gossip sites. And I just don't like that.
Yeah, that's why I don't have Twitter, because to me, let that girl live her life. You know, she'll have to deal with Jared when he gets out. To me, that doesn't have anything to do with the show itself. It's really weird to me, though, on the show when you see Jared telling Blue he's going to propose to her.
Oh, yeah. That's odd. Yeah.
You know, he's saying he's going to propose to her at the finale. And then he's like in the camera telling his girlfriend that he loves her and misses her and stuff. Like, to me, that's interesting. It makes me think, okay, like, is he playing both of these women? Is he, you know, did he make an agreement with his girlfriend before the show? And he's like, hey, I got to do what I got to do to win this money. I may cross some lines, right? Do they have that understanding? Was this relationship planned? Was it expected? Does he think something is there? But to me, it's just watch that play out, right? The story will tell itself. I'm not going to be invested. Like, oh, well, let me go look at his girlfriend. Let me see if she's posted about it. Let me go see what she does. Like, all of that doesn't matter to me at the end of the day.
And this is exactly what I'm saying, Ebony. I'm like, I'm not even saying I don't care. I'm not even saying I'm not interested in the tea. I'm just saying I'm not going to know what's in the tea until they're not in the house anymore. So once I see interviews afterwards, oh yeah, I'm with that. Once I see her talking and him talking afterwards, I'm with looking at all of that. But during the time when they go in the house, when those stories start to happen when they're still in the house and we don't have any information from the other party, we're only going off of Jared. So like you said, we don't know the conversations that they had. We don't really know their status. We don't know. She's not saying anything that I know of. So you're just harassing her, really. She doesn't leave her alone. She's not a part of the show. And then after the show,
I think you're froze.
not
Or am I-
you know, it's gonna have to be talked about when the show's over. So just let it play out when it's gonna play out, and enjoy however many days that they're in the house, or don't enjoy it, but just keep it on the house.
Right.
Blue is not helping him win the money. In a way, I feel like she is, because somebody gets the information that she gets and could have been like, I'm blowing this guy up like right now. So I don't think she's helping him in terms of strategy. I don't think she's good at the game, but she's helping him in terms of he's given her way too much information and she has not turned it against him. You think the same?
Yeah, that's how I feel. And it's weird though, because after she started spending more time with Felicia and Cirie, I definitely think she kind of knows that Cirie is his mom, but I haven't seen her even use that to her own advantage
At
in
all.
the game. And I'm like, you could do so much with this information. And I want to see how the rest of this week plays out, because I feel like if it doesn't come out this week, depending if Izzy is still on the block or not, then it may not come out at all.
This is a good point, Lisa. Last year, we were sitting up watching all their goodnight messages, and they were significantly long too, where Turner was like, good night, Megan. I love you, blah, 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 blah. Taylor's talking to people. She's shouting out Daniel Reyes. This one, like, we used to actually be able to sit there and watch everybody's goodnight messages. Now we don't even see that. Like, we see little snippets of them randomly sitting on a couch or something and being like, oh, mom, blah, blah, blah. Or Izzy's like, Paige, what am I doing? She's laying in the bed. But it's not an official, I'm standing here and looking at the camera and talking for 10 minutes and saying, here's my good night to mom, dad, girlfriend, this one. Like, they cut that out. I noticed that.
Yeah, and you don't even see a lot of people using the camera for strategy either when it comes to, like, if there is like an America's vote for something, you don't really see a lot of people playing that up, which is one reason why I loved Ian too, because Ian did that a lot, but he was a feed watcher.
Good night, Rebecca. Thank you so much for joining us, and talk to you tomorrow if you hop on here tomorrow.
Right.
He froze in shocked expression. Who was that?
You.
Oh, my camera froze?
Yeah.
That's funny.
It only went out for a second.
Good night, Rebecca. God bless you. So I'm going to take like maybe 4 or 5 more questions here before I hop off. So do you have any last words before anyone types in the questions?
No, I appreciated this episode. I'm looking forward to Wednesday's episode. I really want to kind of see the DRs from, what people were thinking before the veto competition and afterwards. So that will kind of determine if Cameron has set himself up for success moving forward, or if it's pretty much going to be, he's going to have to fight it out until they take him out.
I don't think he set himself up for success. I think that it was very short-sighted. I think, like you were saying earlier, it was petty. Oh, yeah, y'all turned against me. Well, I'm going to turn against y'all. The problem is there's multiple of them. So your only bet would be to get somebody to go against Legend 25 and get a group of them, not just Bowie. Convince Corey, convince America, convince Mimi, convince a group that is large enough that if and when you go on the block, well, not even if and when, maybe one of them wins and you don't have to go on the block, but convince them that they shouldn't put you on the block because it's not in their best interest. or convince them that if you do go on the block and they win POV, that it's in their best interest to take you out of the block. And you made another great point. He should be playing up the threat level of Cirie highly. Like, even if you don't want to work with me, it's still in your best interest to do so.
Right. He should have made Cirie the biggest target in the house. That's going to be hard to do. And depending on who stays, he should have painted a target for the trios, right? Regardless. And so it doesn't matter who stays, it would be a bigger target than him. But right now, everyone is looking at Cirie like they're her final two. So it's a lot of convincing. But I think if he would have put in that groundwork this week, people would start to see it with how Cirie actually voted, what happened with the veto. And so all of those different instances could have been people, like even Felicia pushing Matt out of the room, right? That could have been a sign for him to be like, you know what, maybe I'm a little further down on the list with Cirie than I thought I was. Like, why are they pushing me out the room? And so you start sowing those seeds of doubt to where you're not telling them, hey, you can't trust Cirie, but you're letting them, you're planting those seeds so that they come to that realization for themselves.
That's true. But Cirie also did some damage control, because you remember she talked to Matt afterwards and was like, just letting you know, that wasn't me. That was all her. Like, don't think that was us. I wanted you in the room. Lisa said this earlier. She's good at either like starting fires and then hugging the people after she started the fire and putting the fire out that she started.
Yes.
I bet you when they watch back the show when they're at home, they're going to be like, oh my goodness, this lady was playing the hell out of me every week.
I cannot wait for Izzy to watch the show back.
What do you think? I think this is the last thing I'm going to ask you. And it's kind of a big question. That's why I was like, maybe I should have asked it earlier, but I don't care how long it takes you to answer it. What do you think Izzy's relationship is going to be with Cirie and or Jared after the show is done and they're off?
No, I think when they had that conversation and Cirie said, "You're family now," I honestly do think they see Izzy as family. And it goes back to, like I said earlier, where outside of this house, Cirie probably would have saw Izzy on the street and Izzy would have been a super fan. She would have took a picture. They would have posted, tag her, and that would have been it. But because of this relationship that they've built in the house, I do see them hanging out outside of this experience. I could see them starting a podcast together or something, you know, but I could see them really cultivating the relationship outside of the house. But I do still think that Cirie will get her out if she.
Oh, yeah. So I'll tell you the truth. If you asked me the same question even a couple of weeks ago, I would have said, oh, no. She's blackmailing them. So there's no possible way that they're going to have any relationship outside of the house. That same conversation that you're talking about, in addition to when we saw her in the DR today, crying. When she was like, I don't want Izzy out, and she was crying. That's not her talking to somebody else in the house. And you've seen she's willing to play people in the DR. I don't really care if you're in the house or not. Felicia, you can go. This person, I'm done with you. I don't care about you. I think that, yes, she will throw her out if she has a chance to. And it needs to happen. She's willing, because that's just her in general. She's willing to get out her own mother if her mother was in the game with her. She's willing to get out Jared. She's willing to get out anyone if it benefits her. But I think that she really, over time, was like, you know, this girl, I actually started to trust her and I started to like her. And I think as much as Jared hated her when everything started, like, oh, what good is she other than to keep our secret? I think over time he was like, she's actually one of the people who's like riding for us so heavy. She's making moves that are for our benefit and not hers. So I
Yeah.
can see them, just like you said, coming out, having a podcast together, being legitimate friends, hanging out. I can see all of that. I agree with
Yeah.
you
And
completely.
like I said in the comments yesterday, I think in Izzy's mind, she's already won because she's won Cerie's friendship, right? And I think that's enough for her, even though sometimes every now and then we do see her on the feeds where she's saying things like, oh, am I throwing my game away? Or she's like, there's no way I win at the end. So she's thinking about these things, but I think she's still choosing Cirie and Jared over the game. So that's kind of where I am with it. And it's funny when I hear her and Jared are like siblings for real. And it's
Literally.
the funniest thing ever when I hear them talking. No, first of all, the funniest thing ever was when Izzy lost the pressure cooker and she's like sitting on Cerie's lap crying.
Oh,
That
yeah.
was hilarious. But also when she talks to Jared, she's always like, moms. And I'm like, she really be calling Cirie moms like to Jared, like they're really siblings.
Yo, and you know another funny thing? Okay, I have a sibling, I have a sister, right? So if me and my sister are both complaining to my mom about something, my mom will be like, leave him alone. Leave him alone. Just let him cool down. Like, I can't reach him. Whereas she's going to have the emotional conversation with my sister where they analyze and break things down. That's the dynamic I'm seeing with Izzy and Jared, where Jared and Izzy, Jared and why do I keep getting the name? Yes, Cirie, thank you. Jared and Cirie will be like this, and then it gets to a point where Cirie or him is like, yeah, I got you. Yeah, all right. Okay, let's go. And then they just leave the room, and then Cirie will find Izzy. And then she'll be like, I can't get through to this guy. I'm trying to talk to him and I'm trying to let him understand why blue needs to go or why this needs to go this way. But you know him. He doesn't listen. Like she's talking like this is his sister that was born and raised in their household. You know, I see those family dynamics for real.
Yeah, I could see them being like a Derek and Cody, where outside of the house, this is a start of a new relationship for them.
Yes. So I want to thank you so much for being here. I think you did great on this chat. Everyone else who put their comments in there, I think you did great, and I really enjoy having a panel. Because a panel, like I could talk here all day about my opinions and I read your chats, but it's different having an actual face and voice giving their own opinions on here. So it brings something extra to the show. So thank you. Please put some applause in the chat. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ebony, for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And like I said, I just appreciate the opportunity because I don't have people in my real life that I talk Big Brother with. So when I have a group of people who understand the show and I don't have to explain everything, it just helps me to kind of relax outside of work and other things that I have going on.
I know it. Yeah. And you now have a large group in a community that will always have lots of different ideas and thoughts for you. They know everything. They can bounce back your old seasons and your theories and everything. So I think it's a good match.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. And I think I told you, I was like, I appreciate your commentary because you have a lot of people that recap Big Brother and it's very surface level. Or they focus on the drama and the things that really don't matter. But when you have someone who really can explain and talk about the game and share an opinion, I really value that because that's why I like watching.
Thank you. I love the game, despite the fact that I have not watched all those seasons live. And I always say I've watched about half of the seasons, mostly backtracking and watching them later. I actually love the actual game. So that's why when things that happen outside of the game happen, I'm so frustrated because I'm like, then it gives the people who aren't true fans all this ammo to take away from what's happening in the house to only focus on these extra things that have nothing to do with the game. There's people on the Twitterverse, the Reddit pages and the Facebook pages and etc. that I know for a fact at this point don't even watch the show.
Mm-hmm.
They just scroll through the commentaries and see what's the latest hot topic. And especially if it's something negative and toxic, oh, they're going down the road with it. So not only do I appreciate you, it's only been a short time that you've been here, but I mean, I loved this chat that we had.
Yeah.
And you know, all the comments that you put in there, like I said, which is why I asked you to be on here. But I also love this community that I have built in here that does not do that. So it's not just me. These people keep me level, especially when trolls have tried to come in here and infiltrate my page and say stupid things. They'll jump on them faster than I will. So I appreciate the synergy of how you just fit right in there. And, you know, I hope we do this again soon. I'll definitely keep in contact.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. And everybody, please have a good night. And we will talk again. We'll see what happens between tonight and tomorrow. Maybe we'll get more AmeriCorey fire or something, or something much better than that, please. All right. So have a good night.
All right. Good night. Bye.
Okay.